Thursday, everybody. It's Jim. It's Amadeus, and if it's Thursday, it must mean there's college and pro football. Amadeus, and Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos get to play um, against the Kansas City Chiefs, and to be honest, it's really one of the best rivalries. Talking about going over the years, right? The Kansas City people hate Denver, and folks in Denver are not too pleased with Kansas City. However, that being said, um, tonight I think if you're a Kansas City fan, you're probably not too concerned.
Yeah, they had the injury to Kelsey. I'm not
Right.
sure if he's going to play tonight, but it probably shouldn't really matter too much. I
Hmm.
mean, they're playing against one of the worst defenses in the league, so no Kelsey. I'm sure it'll be no problem for the Chiefs to win this game.
I think Taylor Swift could probably score a touchdown against Denver's defense. Um, with a little help from a pass from Mahomes, something like that. A little, not on a jet sweep, but definitely on a pass play.
Yeah, maybe with a key block from her boo.
Right, exactly. That wouldn't hurt. Wouldn't hurt. But yeah, I think this is going to be name that score kind of a situation. Although you'd say that we were talking, in the pre-show about the fact that the line is at 10.5. Has it gone up? Has it gone down, or just kind of stayed there?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one because it opened at 10.5 after Sunday,
Uh huh.
and it's stayed at 10.5, and there's about 70+% of the money is on Kansas City.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a very interesting game how the spread hasn't moved from 10.5. It's always scary to me to take these double digit spreads
Sure.
on a short week like this. But then
Mhm.
again, I was on the 49ers like -14 when they're playing
Right.
the Giants that one weekend or that
Mhm.
one Thursday night. So it can be done. Obviously, double digits are very hard to cover
Sure.
in the NFL, but it definitely can be done. It always worries me on a shorter week like this.
Right. One of the things that I think, and actually we get questions on it all the time, and so since we've got a little time to talk about it, from a standpoint, there's a lot of people who ask, do you know where when you set a line when you're talking about 10.5, right? That the line is set. Now that line is set on by Vegas usually on Sunday evening, morning, Monday morning, right?
Yeah, usually they'll have lines
Mm-hmm.
before the games are even
Sure.
played for the next week, but those are called the look ahead line.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, usually on the Sunday, once all the games are in
Right.
progress, the usually whatever games are in progress, those teams the games will be
Mm-hmm.
off the board. So there's
Right.
just no lines, and then
Mm-hmm.
yeah, later the Sunday night they should be out
Mm-hmm.
after the teams play. And you got to be careful too, because even with the Monday night game, like you'll get a
Mm-hmm.
different spread going into Monday night
Mm-hmm.
for that team's game for those two teams playing next week,
Right.
and then after Monday, there could be a completely different opening line.
And the B question to that that we get is what moves the line?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that could move the line. Like a big one last week,
Mm-hmm.
the big sharp play last week was the Cincinnati Bengals at -3 because the look ahead line was closer to 8, seven and a
Mm-hmm.
half ish for the Bengals.
Right.
So obviously, the Bengals haven't looked great in the first few
Sure.
weeks, and the injury to Joe Burrow. So that one really, and considering the Cardinals, they had the upset over Dallas, and
Right.
they looked pretty good in those first three games. So that skewed the line quite a bit, and
Mm-hmm.
so we ended up getting the Bengals as a 3-point favorite, and obviously, they won the game by
Sure.
14 points. So things like that, recent form can really think.
Mm-hmm.
Injuries are a big one. Like the Vikings opening line was actually -3.5, and when
Mm-hmm.
they announced Justin Jefferson was going to miss the game,
Mm-hmm.
confirmed, it dropped to 2.5.
Right.
So yeah, and anything basically from injury news, and then obviously money, for example, like
Mm-hmm.
the Las Vegas Raiders opened as a 1-point favorite. That one
Mm-hmm.
got bet up to almost 2.5, and then it came all the way back down to 1 by kickoff time because a lot of money came in on Green Bay. Well, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
the Raiders ended up winning that game. But yeah,
Sure.
money, injuries, and recent form are three big things for sure that can change the look ahead line to the opening. That it can change the number quite a bit from the look ahead line to the opening line.
And then there's always Mattress Mac, who could always change the line with
Yeah,
just
well,
simple.
he's more just like a jinx, right, Jim?
Right, yeah. He can change the line by putting $7 million down on one team. Yeah, that would definitely moves the line. But you're right; he's more of a jinx than he is a hit. So
Well, we haven't heard much from him the last few months, so this is
no,
his
no.
time of year. This is when he was very active last year, closer to the
Right.
months of
Well,
December and whatnot. So
didn't it was the Astros that hit for him, right?
yeah, that was like
Last
his
year,
first one. He had the Astros, and then he
he
had
took a
the
plane full
TCU
of cash
bet.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he ended up losing it all on TCU
Right.
in
Yeah.
that college football final.
Right. All
But
that money
yeah,
went to Georgia. Yes.
yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure we're gonna be. I'm surprised he doesn't have a hand in this Astros Rangers series, but I guess we'll see.
Well, what's he gonna do? I mean, he's got mattress stores in both Houston and Dallas. He'd have to split his bet.
He's
So
probably just waiting
one of the
for
two to
the
make it,
series.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then when whoever goes, he'll just bet the series price. That team
I
to
think
win.
the one thing for the American League is we do know that the game will be played in Texas. Now, whether it's going to be Arlington or whether it's going to be Houston, that's yet to be determined. But it'll be interesting for sure at that game. I know that with the Rangers and the Astros, that series could match up to be a really good one.
Yeah, so it's funny. I guess that they finished with the same regular season record,
Right.
but I guess the Astros get the home advantage because they won the division based off I guess what was
It was head-to-head competition.
the series
Yeah.
like
They
between
had
them.
I think they
Yeah,
had
yeah.
two
So
more
they
wins
won the
over
series
yeah
season.
the season series. Yeah. So
Yeah,
they were
the season series. Yeah, six to
yeah
four actually.
right.
I think it was.
Yeah. So and then as remember we were looking at the final week of the season and Texas just they didn't play at all. And then I think that's what to be honest that's what surprised me so much was when they really played poorly and then they just rolled over Tampa Bay and then obviously they rolled past Baltimore as well. And it's one of those. Normally, you see the build up as the season begins to end, right? And the team's playing really well, and they roll into the playoffs. It normally doesn't start on day one of the playoffs, but it did for them. That's for sure.
Yeah, they just did the complete 180 turn. They got
Right,
hot right in day one in the playoffs,
right.
and they've honestly had the toughest road in the playoffs so
Yeah.
far. They won 2 games in Tampa. They won
Hmm.
2 games in Baltimore, one in
Right.
Texas, but still swept them in that series. And as
Hmm.
you said, that's 200 wins right there between
Right.
those two teams. And now they're going to be on the road again, but this is probably their least amount of travel that they've had to do in the entire
Yeah,
playoffs.
this is a 45-minute flight, so it's not exactly like they're going, and they're staying in the same time zone, and
Staying in the
literally in the
same
same
state.
state. So yeah, they're probably going to be fans. It takes longer to get to the game than it does for them to get from Houston to Dallas, but it's going to be it'll be fun. I mean, I can tell you from personal experience. Working in Houston and going over to Dallas, that on every level, baseball, it doesn't matter what they compete at, even high school football. I mean, number one, they'll bet on it. Number two, they are not crazy about each other. So it will be a very interesting situation. And you got two managers who are maestros. You got Dusty Baker with Houston. You got Bruce Bochy, in Texas. You got two Hall of Fame managers in this game.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be an exciting series for sure. The Rangers are coming into game one as the underdog, but honestly,
Hmm.
with the way they've been playing in these
Right.
playoffs, I'd give them the advantage coming in here.
Well, and Corey Seager's been raking. I mean, that guy is. We talked about it yesterday. I think you made a golf analogy to it that he could probably,
Oh yeah, he could hit the driver off the fairway.
right, exactly. Um, he's just hitting it. I mean, there's guys that get into those zones, and away they go. Now, one would hope, and we'll see, but one would hope that now that they have a few days off, and both of them will have a few days off, that the series I believe begins on Sunday. So there's quite a bit going, but it should be a very interesting situation. And right now, I don't think either one of them really have an advantage either hitting or pitching. I think it's a pretty basic, even series.
Yeah, if it, and it's funny because both teams actually have like some key starting pitchers
Right,
who have been injured all season,
right.
really. But I would actually give the edge to the Rangers with
Hmm.
all the injuries right now, just because
Sure.
Eovaldi's a stud. He obviously has his
Hmm.
playoff experience from his days on the Red Sox.
Right.
And yeah, they got some solid starters there. Obviously, Dane Dunning has had some
Hmm.
decent outings for sure this season, especially at home. So they're probably saving him for
Hmm.
the home part of this series. But yeah, and the Astros. Having the home advantage here actually hurts the Astros because they had a
Hmm.
better road record during the regular season. So it's all coming together for a Texas Rangers in the World Series.
There you go. I recall in 2019 the weirdness of the fact that the Nationals won the World Series against the Astros, and neither team won a home game.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that was a wild one for
That
sure.
was that was bizarre by all stretches. But
So I think the Astros had the lead too, right? And everybody thought
yeah,
they're gonna go back home and get it
well
done, and then
they
it
were up.
was like
It was
bang
this,
bang.
right. It was the that was the seventh game of the series. Here they go. And ironically, and we will see soon enough if he's going to get a chance. But ironically, in that final game, it was Mad Max pitching for the Nationals in Game 7 of that series, and now he's got the Texas uniform on, and we'll see if he gets there. So it'll be interesting. I know there's that George W. Bush and his wife were at the game the other night, and of course George Bush at one point in time was the managing general partner of the Rangers. So he's got a history with that. It's funny because his dad was a huge Houston Astros fan. So I guess there's split allegiances even in the Bush family on that one.
Yeah, well, there you go. I'm
Right.
sure they'll be at all the games here. They don't have much of a travel to go.
No, no. They live in Crawford, Texas, and that's about 60 miles away. So they got
Just take the private jet from game
take
to
the
game.
family. Yeah.
As you said, 45-minute flight.
Yep. Not a problem. So then you go. We move forward there to the NFL tonight, and we talked a little bit about Denver and Kansas City. It's going to be interesting because the Kansas City fans and the Denver fans don't like each other. The teams aren't particularly, don't particularly care for each other, and the combination of Sean Payton and Andy Reid, there's been a little bit of over the years. I'm not going to say smack talking, but Sean likes to talk, as we found out recently. And he's not been overly kind to Andy Reid. So this is one of those things where you sit down there and you wonder if Russell Wilson is gonna be able to really help this team tonight, because they're gonna need all the help they can get, because Kansas City is raring to run the score up on them.
Yeah, it seems like Sean Payton likes to talk a lot about a lot of people, and
Hmm.
not really a ton of nice things to say about them. That's for sure.
Unfortunately, yes. Of course, that works when you're in New Orleans. You got Drew Brees and you got the Saints. It does not work when you're in Denver, where he simply doesn't have the players around him to back up his mouth.
Yeah, he's probably wishing he kept his job as an analyst right now,
Right,
so then he could
right,
continue just to talk
right,
crap about people and
right,
rest his hat on his one Super Bowl there with Drew Brees. But
right. It's I'll never forget the great line from Dick Vitale, who said when somebody asked him if he's going to leave broadcasting to go back to coaching, he goes, "Why?" He goes, I can win or lose every night basically says who's going to win or who's going to lose when he's doing the game, and he goes, and nobody fires me if I lose. So there's a good chance, but I think you're right. I mean, sometimes when these coaches go away for a while and then come back, I mean, it certainly was the case with Peyton and that, and before that, we had to deal with, you know, in Jacksonville where it, we had the situation where oh God, I'm blanking on the coach again. Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer leaves the broadcast booth to come back to Jacksonville, and he didn't even make it through the first season. So
Yeah, well, to be fair to him, he was also making the jump from college football, which he should have never even bothered. But
that's true.
yeah, because it's a lot different, right? It's a totally
100%.
different
Yeah.
locker room, and there you go. Like we've even mentioned it before. Like Deion Sanders obviously
Oh yeah.
knows because when they asked him about making the jump to NFL, he doesn't want to. He has no interest, and it's mainly because he's the kind of guy that wants to shape the
Hmm.
minds of the youth, and you
Right.
can't do that in the NFL because you have a locker room full of a lot of guys that are in late 20s or early 30s sometimes even. So it's tough to go in there and with the same with that college mentality because you're not talking to kids anymore.
Right.
You're talking to adults.
Well, that's number one. Number two is that when you walk in there, and this is the case in most NFL situations, you're the most of the people you're talking to make more money than you do. And so, from that standpoint, do they believe in what you're saying? Perhaps, but if they don't, they just don't listen because they don't have to. I mean, they're going to get paid whether you like them or not. In college, it's a whole different ballgame. So, from that standpoint, I know people have said, well, Pete Carroll did it. Went from the college to the pros. And I remind them that Pete Carroll actually was a pro coach before he was a college coach, and then he went back to the pros. So the success there is something that you can look at, and you can as a fan of the Cardinals can remember that the Cliff Kingsbury experiment didn't go so well in Phoenix.
Yeah, not saying it can't be done. Obviously, there are
No,
guys who have done it, like Bill O'Brien's one, who's
sure.
kind of flipped, didn't have a ton of success.
Hmm.
Obviously, with Houston there when it all fell apart with
Hmm.
with Deshaun Watson, but he had it for a few years, and
Yeah.
obviously the success at Alabama with Saban. So
Hmm.
it can be done. It's not for everybody.
Right.
Coaching in both college and NFL because they
Hmm.
are two very different sports, and it almost seems like the gap is getting larger and larger these days
Yeah.
between college and the professional level.
Well, the success of Saban, right, was in college. I mean, he went and he was, the D coordinator in Cleveland with Belichick. Then he went to LSU. Then from there, he leveraged that into the Miami job. And he didn't like that, and so he moved to Alabama. So from that standpoint, you have a guy who's been in college, but he's also been involved in pro football too, and realizes that again, what you say, you can do a lot more and get a lot more accomplished when you're the boss as opposed to when you're just being working with a group of guys who either if they don't buy into it, then you're in trouble.
Yeah, 100%.
Speaking of which, we have college football tonight, and start up with the Big 12 game. That one's got some interesting matchups. You got the first year team from Houston coming into play, and it's gonna be a fun game.
Yeah, definitely. We got West Virginia as a 3-point favorite
Hmm.
coming into Houston, and that's it's a little bit of a fishy line to me. That they actually opened as a -2.5
Hmm.
West Virginia, and they've been killing it. Obviously, they just got the road win against
Hmm.
TCU. They beat Texas Tech, so they've beaten some Big 12 teams, and Houston has not been good at all, especially in Big 12 competition.
Right.
They've lost their two Big 12 games, so they're still looking for their first win in the conference since,
Mm-hmm.
since joining. But yeah, now Houston's at home. They're coming off the bye week.
Right.
And this is a weird line. West Virginia should be favored by a little more than 3 points. It's moved to three now from 2.5. But
Mm.
yeah, something going on here. Maybe Dana Holgerson has something, plan something schemed up off the
Right.
bye week to ruin West Virginia's season here, because they're right now they're at the top of the Big 12 with Oklahoma.
Right. I think I mean, given the fact that West Virginia was picked to be, last in the conference, they're overachieving in that regard. I don't know. I think West Virginia. I The thing that's a problem is if you go back on Houston, right? They've had It's been a long time since Houston's had a good football team. They got into the conference in large part because of the donor base that they have, which pushed them over the top. So Houston's there, but I'm not so certain that they would even be. They used to be in the American. I'm not even sure that they would be in the top 4 or 5 in the American. So I don't know. I mean, this is not a good football team. It may the potential down the road, yeah, I'll give them that, but they're not there now. And I think if West Virginia could make a bowl eligibility situation, that would be like Christmas to the Mountaineer fans because they were expecting nothing.
Well, I don't know if the Mountaineer fans were expecting nothing, but definitely everybody outside
All
of
right,
West
fair
Virginia
enough.
was
Yeah,
expecting nothing, and they're
point.
probably a little pissed off about that, which is why you're seeing what you're
Right.
seeing now. It's still a tough spot for West Virginia here,
Yeah.
back-to-back road games, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously Houston coming off the bye. But
Right.
yeah, as you mentioned, would Houston even be a top 5 team in the AAC this year?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. And if you look at the Big 12 standings right now,
Mm-hmm.
obviously it's still very early. It's not early in the season, but it's early in the
Right.
conference schedule. Most teams have only played 2 or 3 games,
Mm-hmm.
but still, if you look at the bottom of the conference right now, after 2 games into the conference schedule, every Big 12 newcomer this year is at the
Mm-hmm.
bottom of the conference except for BYU, which I
Mm-hmm.
think speaks volumes.
Right. Well, and BYU, I mean, BYU was an independent, so they played a more competitive schedule than Houston did, or UCF for that matter.
Yeah, they always love to schedule like crazy. They got
Mm-hmm.
25-year-olds on the team, talking guys with families, and they have the altitude advantage at home,
Right.
over there in Provo, Utah. So yeah, 100%. BYU, I think, is the one newcomer to the Big 12
Mm.
that is being competitive in the conference. But as
Right.
for these other ones like Houston, UCF,
Right.
we're at the bottom here. Something's got to change, or else maybe everybody was right. The Big 12 shouldn't have taken you in.
Well, I mean, it's was it they got the Slovis kid who started at USC, went to Pitt. He's graduated. He's working on a graduate degree. I think he's probably going to have the master's degree before he ends up finishing his career at BYU. But he's 24. He's going to be 25. So that's a seasoned quarterback.
Yeah, no, 100%, and it fits in well with that team there. Anyway,
Yeah.
the BYU always has an older team, but
Well, yeah, they do. They have their missionary work, which many times takes them, overseas, and they do have. You're right, 100% that they do have an older and more seasoned group of players than most of the other teams.
yeah, you always got to take that into account with BYU, because it really does matter. Not only just
Sure.
the just being older and the experience factor, but the fact that these are more physical players too.
Sure.
They're more developed. Obviously, if you're like an 18-year-old freshman going up against a 25-year-old man, like
Right.
the 25-year-old's gonna have, it might not be much, but they're gonna have a physical advantage on you still. So yeah, 100%. The BYU is always a physical team.
Right.
I think definitely the age helps them, and yeah, with
Mm-hmm.
that they have that altitude advantage at home, so they're the one team right now that I think is doing well in the Big
Mm-hmm.
12 compared to the other newcomers for sure.
Right, absolutely. Let's chat. We talked a little bit about the AAC with Houston. Let's move to the AAC because East Carolina's playing tonight.
Yeah, soon to be this matchup next year will be an ACC AAC matchup, but right
Right.
now it's still a
It's
conference
still not.
game.
Yeah.
So we got a nice SMU and East Carolina tonight.
Mm-hmm.
SMU going into East Carolina is a 12-point favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And that one actually, I think that one opened up around, I think it was like a 10 and a half, and it's moved up to 12 points
Right.
now. So yeah, this is one where ECU's very bad team, but I almost think you got to take the points at home here. I don't know if SMU is going to be winning by 2 touchdowns in this game. They haven't looked that great themselves. They're
Right.
starting to figure it out now in their recent games, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that offense is not where it was supposed to be this year.
It's tough to win at ECU as much as I've given them grief over the years. It's a tough situation from that standpoint. So if SMU can sneak by, I don't think it's going to be by a lot. So I like the idea. Your point. I think that that's a good point. I think that that's too many points to give. SMU whenever you're playing at ECU, and ECU haven't been. They haven't run up the score on anybody yet so far. So they win, but they don't necessarily have to trounce somebody. And SMU, as you say, they're getting their act together. So we'll see. It'll be an interesting game for sure. It's not Maction, of course, but it is not a bad game. So
Yeah,
got that
hundred
going on.
percent.
So far early in the season, uh, and when I mean early in the season, I mean really early in the season. Any thoughts about the NBA? Anything that you've seen? Anything you've read? Anything that tells you, okay, no question. We talked yesterday about Minnesota and Milwaukee and some of those other Eastern teams, Miami, and where they are and where they hope to be. It's going to be. I mean, I looked at the West, and honestly, it's still to me, and I could be wrong, but still Phoenix and Golden State and Utah probably are the 3 best teams out there.
Yeah. So the books would definitely agree with you, Jim, because if you look at the futures, obviously, yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
defending champion Denver Nuggets are number
Mm-hmm.
third on the list because the 2 favorites we discussed yesterday, the Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston
Sure.
Celtics. So
Mm-hmm.
the two favorites are coming out of the East right now, according to Vegas. But yeah, the next 3 teams after that. Nuggets, Suns, Warriors, Lakers,
Mm-hmm.
Clippers, Mavericks. So 5 straight Western teams
Mm-hmm.
they have after the 2 Eastern powers. And then, yeah, the Miami Heat right after that
Mm-hmm.
group of Western teams. And then the 76ers after that. So they're
Hmm.
not very high on the 76ers this year. Obviously, you got disgruntled Harden there. So we'll have to see. What I'm shocked actually to see is the Cleveland Cavaliers at plus 2,600, just because
Wow.
they were a big surprise last year. I don't know
Yeah.
if they were necessarily a surprise, but they performed very well for their first year of Donovan Mitchell joining the team, and you got
Yeah.
to think they're only going to improve now in the second year with as
Yeah. I thought
everything
that they
gels.
overperformed last year. You know.
100%, and that makes me
That
wonder
was
what they're going to do this year, right, Chip?
right. Mm-hmm. So you're telling me no love for Joel Embiid in Philly, huh? It's
Yeah,
uh,
plus
it's all
plus
it's all Harden.
2,200.
But when isn't Harden disgruntled? I mean, you know, maybe back in the day when he and Durant played in Oklahoma City, but that's been a while. So yeah, that's crazy. So we got the Lakers and the Clips playing in the same building. So at least for another year or so, the Clippers have their new building, which is basically the old Forum out by Los Angeles Airport, is where they're going to be playing. It's at the other end of Stan Kroenke's SoFi Stadium complex, So
It's just slowly adding to the complex.
just slowly adding to the complex like they need. So they took the old, um, fabulous forum, which was made famous by obviously the Showtime Lakers, and then they're heading out from downtown where the Crypto Dome, as we call it, is going out to Inglewood to play in by the airport there. So
Why have they not renamed it to the Crypto Dome yet?
they're behind us. They're just behind us. There's nothing we can. We've done everything we can to help the league. We can't force them to do something that they don't want to do. So got to do what you got to do. But so the Clips and the Lakers, I don't. I just the Lakers are what the Lakers are old. I mean, that's just an old team. I don't. I mean, I just think the Clippers are a better team. Maybe I'm wrong.
Lakers, never mind old. They're just a weird team. It's always like LeBron and four other
Mm,
guys,
right,
and those guys change periodically
right.
throughout the season.
Mm,
And it's like the starting lineup at the day
mm,
one of the season is LeBron and four guys, and then by the time we
right,
get to the playoffs, it's LeBron and four different guys.
right.
So
And
it's
maybe
yeah,
even a different coach. Yes.
yeah, and a different coach. So definitely it's tough to look at the Lakers. They're kind of a team where I think you have to watch them play a few games before
Hmm.
you get a good idea of them. The Clippers, on the other hand, I'm actually a little down on the Clippers this year because
Okay.
of that new rule they put in about the resting stars. I wonder how that's how that one's gonna work for them there with Kawhi and George, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, plays. Um, it plays against LeBron too, because the goal was to. You know, I think people forget that in a season, an NBA season, it's possible LeBron doesn't play 15, 20 games. Whether they say he's injured or not injured or whatever, they just put him on the IL just to give him some rest. You know, or he only plays a couple of quarters or something like that. And the league, part of the reason the league has been cracking down on that is a lot of people, go to a game expecting to see star players play, and if they're not playing, that doesn't benefit the league a lot. So from that standpoint, the league's kind of been, we want our stars to play. And in fairness, I don't, Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, those guys used to, they would play night in, night out. Didn't matter where, whether they were doing back to backs or those types of things. It didn't matter to them. They played, and fans, when they went to a game and their team was playing, the Bulls, they were going to see Michael Jordan. The Lakers, they were going to see, the guys, the guys that made it, and that was the same for Kobe. As a matter of fact, God rest his soul. He was a guy who didn't take a game off, unless it was slight, had to do with an injury.
Yeah, and I think it really goes to show you how much the league has changed over the
Mm-hmm.
years from a league that used to be filled with players who just wanted to play the game and
Mm-hmm.
play ball, versus now where you just have a league full of players that want to get their way. I want to be on this team,
Mm-hmm.
and they just want the money and fame because that's all I see. Most people I know don't even watch the NBA regular season
Mm-hmm.
because see they put out a
What's the
bad
sense?
product.
Yeah.
And it's funny because that's all Adam Silver and the NBA cares about is
Uh-huh.
improving the product without realizing that they're damaging the product year
Mm-hmm.
after year, and it's getting worse. It's a bad product. The NBA regular season, the playoffs are great,
Mm-hmm.
but nobody wants to see teams get blown out by 40 on a Wednesday night,
Right.
or even a team that's up by 20 at
Mm-hmm.
halftime and ends up losing the game. Like what is that about? There's no defense in the league these days, and I think it shows how much it's changed. Now, obviously, it's the same things happening in the NFL,
Sure.
but
But that's only 17
different.
games.
Yeah, 100%. It's different, and you have to market it a different way.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because, I mean, team that is up there by you, the Raptors, right? the Raptors are one of the best three-quarter teams in basketball. It's the fourth quarter that's their problem. And that's not just the case with the Raptors. That's the case with a lot of teams in the NBA. Is they can play great three quarters, and then in the final 6 minutes of the game they forget what they were doing and lose. It's just crazy. Cleveland, on the other hand, is one of those teams when we talked about earlier that plays as hard as they can or as well as they can for three quarters, but they seem to have another gear when it comes to the fourth quarter, and they were winning a lot of games last year in the fourth quarter.
That's just clutch Donovan Mitchell, and
Right?
sometimes you just need that clutch player on your team.
Yeah, somebody who can just turn them loose and say, "Go,
You need a crunch time player.
yeah, go get me that win, big dog," and they go do it. So, and the Celtics, the Celtics have persevered over 5-6 years where they've changed players, they've changed coaches, and yet they still continue to compete.
Yeah, we'll see what they do this year.
Mm-hmm.
We talked yesterday about how that Smart for Porzingis is kind of a bit of a downgrade,
Mm-hmm.
getting a more injury-prone player. So we'll see what they do. Obviously, Vegas still has them as the second favorite to win the league this year, but
Right.
we'll see.
Well, and we'll see about the Nuggets as well. I mean, that's a team that on paper looks like there's no reason to believe they're not going to be there. But
See, that's the thing about the Nuggets, right? They're just Jokic carrying the team, and then
right,
when Jamal Murray's hot, all of a sudden that's a championship team. When Jamal
right,
Murray's not hot, Jokic can win games, but he's not winning the championship. So that's
no,
basically what their team is there.
right,
It's
and
similar
then
to
you
the
want
Bucks.
right, and then you wonder, you know, from the Warriors standpoint, how much longer is Steph going to want to do this?
Yeah,
Because what
they've
more
had
is he?
like
I mean, he
this.
doesn't have to prove anything. He's
They've
got
had the same core
four
players
rings.
for so many years too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and the coach. I mean, Steve Kerr.
Yeah,
So that's where they are. I'm honestly surprised that Pop's still around. In San Antonio.
well now he's got Wemby, so he'll be there for another 20 years until when
Yes,
he
that's
retires.
a good point. Yeah, but one of the good things for Pop is he's always been good with with bigs. He's been good with the big guys.
Yeah, well that's why they got
Robinson
Wemby to
and
him in the draft.
right. I mean, he had the Admiral and David Robinson, and he had Tim Duncan, and so he knows how to play with the big guys. So we'll see. Although Wemby, I don't know, maybe Wemby looks more to me like a Dirk Nowitzki guy, right? He's not really one of these guys that backs you down and then hits one of those little Kareem Abdul-Jabbar skyhooks. He's more that he can probably pop off 5 or 6 3-pointers, which is tough to do. When you're well over 7 feet, and you're out there shooting and lighting it up from there. There's really not a whole lot you can do to stop him.
Yeah, 100%. So that'll be interesting to see how he breaks into the league as well.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm looking to see with him is the physicality, right? He's a big guy, no question about that. But you're playing in a position. He's going to play the. I don't know if he's going to play the 3 or 4. Probably play the 3. I don't know. Maybe he'll play the 4. Where you're in, He's got to be in the paint some of the time. He's too big not to. So that's gonna those bodies bang around down there pretty darn hard for a very long time. So we'll have to see how that plays out.
Yeah, 100%. It'll be an interesting season for sure. A lot
Yeah,
of things to watch.
plenty to pay attention to. We'll hit some real quick headlines and then we'll get going out here. All right. Let's see. Let's see. The IOC has decided, from a World Cup standpoint in 2023, that they're going to have more teams in the tournament. Good thing, bad thing.
I'd say it was a good thing. Definitely, there's a lot more soccer teams on the national level that are getting better for sure. I think the Nations League has been a big thing to help improve some of these lower tier teams.
Well, here's a stunning revelation. Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts say after the Dodgers played such an amazing season, it was a disappointing way to get out, and B, perhaps we underperformed. You think?
Yeah, just a little.
Okay. Will Orlando? This probably should be a prop bet. Will Orlando Arcia's comments motivate Bryce Harper and the Phillies to a game-3 victory, a third victory, I guess would be the best way of putting it. The answer is yes and yes, it will.
Yeah.
Shut up when you don't know what you're talking about. Here's my favorite. We'll leave it with this one because this is one of your favorites as well. How can the Broncos get out of Russell Wilson's contract? Not easily. I'll tell you that right now.
You're just gonna have to eat it and draft a rookie and keep him around as a mentor. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I think didn't they trade for him before the team was sold too? So I feel like that was just like a bit of a
albatross to the owner, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna ruin everything. You guys want to buy the team, fine, but you're gonna be set back like 5 years by the time you get this team. I'm gonna destroy it so hard.
You're gonna be stuck in cap hell, which is, I mean, that's usually what happens when you sign one of those big, contracts with the quarterback. And that was a contract that wasn't even, they didn't sign him to that. That was a Seattle contract. So they're eating most of that. They're eating Seattle's, money. So there you go. I said that would be the last one. One last one. And that's Washington's head football coach Kalen DeBoer said of Michael Penix, who plays, of course, against Oregon this week, which should be great. It's going to be played out there in Seattle. There's not a flaw in his game. Well, that's lovely words. What I've seen of Michael Penix, I wouldn't disagree with Coach DeBoer on that one. I haven't seen Michael Penix, make many mistakes. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't say flawless, but what I will say is, we gave out Penix to win the Heisman at plus 800 earlier this year. He is now the favorite at plus 200, ahead of Caleb Williams. So,
you got to listen to us, otherwise forget about it.
Are holding a plus 800 ticket for him because
there you go.
Looks really good right now, especially when they beat Oregon this week.
And I agree with you. I think it's going to happen. All right, so we come to that part of the show where it is time for people to know where you are and what you're doing and what you're talking about tonight.
Yeah, you get my plays at bigowl.com, pickadvisor.com, and theinsidersroom.com. Go check them out. I got one college football play up tonight. I got an NFL play up. I have some college football up for tomorrow, and I'll have tons of international soccer and football as well for the weekend. So, make sure you go check that out.
Good, because this weekend, tomorrow we're going to be delving into what looks to be a very, there's not a lot of good games, but there's some very good, the games that are good are very good. So it'll be fun to watch those and pay attention and see what's going on. So bring your pads and pencils tomorrow, boys and girls, because class is going to be very interesting, to say the least. Okay? All right. Well, have a lovely day, folks. We will see you tomorrow. For Amedeus, I'm Jim. Be well.